built it for them himself. In his first year at the camp, he had lived in a military surplus tent with the other men, but once he was with Paloma, they wanted privacy and a space for themselves. She had grown up in Raul's camps after their parents died. Her 3 other brothers worked for Raul as well, and Pablo had rapidly caught her eye as she had inevitably caught his. Raul had defended her virtue fiercely until then. It was a sign of his deep respect for Pablo that he had entrusted her to him and given him his consent. To Pablo, she was the ultimate prize. He loved the sweet scent of her skin as he nestled with her at night, her gentleness in all things, and her full belly now heavy with their child. Raul wanted it to be a boy. Pablo didn't say it, but he didn't care. He just wanted it to go easily for her, and the baby to be healthy when it was born. She was a brave girl, used to the primitive conditions in which they lived, and said she wasn't afraid. Pablo could feel the baby kick him when she slept behind him with an arm gently cast over him in the cool night air of the jungle. Pablo was wearing his old military jacket from Ecuador with an undershirt, fatigue pants, and his old army boots as he lit his first cigarette of the day and took a long drag. He had slipped out, as he always did, without waking Paloma, and had his first cup of coffee with Raul every morning while they discussed the missions of the day and the state of their activities in process. They had dealings in Panama, Ecuador, Aruba, Venezuela, Bolivia, and Mexico, and exported literally tons of cocaine to Mexico, Canada, Africa, Europe, and the United States. Raul ran the largest and most successful drug operation in South America. They exported it by land, air, and sea via ships and speedboats out of Cartagena. Pablo was in charge of coordinating their transport operation at the highest level. While Raul ran everything from their camp, Pablo slipped quietly into the 2 cities, checked on operations, conveyed Raul's orders, and then came back to the camp to report to El Lobo, who ran his vast empire with military precision. Raul was a man worthy of respect and admiration for the sheer efficiency with which he ran his business. And he had built it all himself, adding one piece of the giant operation to the next, until his arms encompassed much of South America. Pablo was his most trusted legman, but they all knew that Raul was the heart and soul and brains of their business, and ran it all on a grand scale. Pablo finished the last of his cigarette as he walked into the clearing where Raul made camp. His tent was military and heavily camouflaged, but no one was ever sure where he slept at night. The location was always kept secret, even from Pablo, although they met at his tent in the morning to discuss work. But the joke in the camp was that El Lobo slept with the other wolves. The women he slept with were temporary and of no consequence to him. He considered them more of a liability than an asset, and he teased Pablo that he didn't have his romantic ideas. But it was a weakness he tolerated in him, since it benefited his sister, and Pablo treated her well. Raul was all about business. Nothing else mattered to him, except the loyalty of his men. He considered their total dedication to him a sacred trust, and those who failed him in some way rapidly disappeared. Their families, attachments to women, and personal lives were of no interest to him. He was smoking a Romeo y Julieta limited edition Havana cigar as he did every morning when Pablo arrived. He offered one to Pablo from the box on his desk every day, and Pablo always declined. He smoked a cigar with Raul sometimes before he went home at night, but didn't have the stomach for it first thing in the morning. But he liked the familiar pungent smell when he walked into the tent, and often brought the cigars for Raul from Bogotá. They were common here for men like Raul. Despite the way he lived in order to run his business, he was a man of distinguished tastes. He had been educated in Europe, and had gone to Oxford for 2 years. It made for interesting conversations with Pablo, when they shared a brandy and a cigar late at night. Pablo had been well educated too, from a respectable family. It gave them something more in common than the business interests they shared. The moment Raul saw Pablo, there was a brotherly light in his eyes. He clapped him on the shoulder and they embraced. The 2 men even looked somewhat alike, although Pablo was younger and taller and in flawless shape. Their coloring was similar, as was their military style. "How is my fat sister?" Raul said, teasing him, as Pablo helped himself to the strong dark brew of coffee that Raul made himself and drank gallons.